All right. So Josh, you brought another guest on here. You invited a friend of the show, hopefully. So Josh, why don't you introduce our friend here?
Absolutely. I'm gonna let him introduce himself, because it's more exciting than me, but me doing it. But this is Patrick Hape. He played at Alabama and also for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Denver Broncos in the NFL for 8 years as a tight end and fullback for one year, right?
Yeah.
So we're glad you're here, Patrick. If there's anything you wanna tell us, about yourself, your family. I know that family is extremely important to you. You got a couple kids. Kind of tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, man. Josh, Rod, and Andrew, man, I appreciate you guys having me on the show. It's an honor to be on here. I know your podcast. You've talked about it for a long time, and finally I get a chance to actually be on. But yeah, so I'm married to Jennifer Hape. We actually met in college, and the end of 1994, and she's from West Monroe, Louisiana, and everybody's like, well, where's West Monroe? I'm like, you ever heard of Duck Dynasty? Yeah, baby.
Absolutely.
I had a couple people say that tonight when I was talking about her. Yeah, they're like, that's where Duck Dynasty's from. So yeah, we met in college and been together. We went to Tampa after my first year there. We got married and wasn't sure if we ever wanted to have kids, and we ended up having kids because we wanted to at a certain point, but we waited a little bit later in life. And so I have a son that's 15 years old, Carson, and my daughter is 11, and her name is Taylor.
Awesome. Very cool, man. So I know that you were a standout in high school and had a lot of different opportunities, a few different colleges that were after you. You were doing some camps each year after, your 10th grade, 11th grade years, 9th, 10th, and 11th. What made you choose Alabama?
Oh, it was I always kind of grew up as an Alabama fan, and so I would go to so I played football my whole life, baseball and basketball. But when it came to football, me and a few other my friends that I played with, we would go to football camps every year. So I went to the University of North Alabama, UNA, which is in my hometown of Florence. We went there before our 10th grade year, and then before our 11th grade year, all my friends, we went to Florida State. And then before my senior year in college, I went to Alabama's football camp. And so those were the football camps I went to, and it was, a great time. I think everybody nowadays goes to football camps, 3 or 4 times during the summer. I thought one, and I was like, man, I accomplished a lot. And so we went to realize that I was going to go to Alabama. I was always a big fan anyway. I was also an Auburn fan. I was also a Tennessee fan. I mean, I liked all the SEC schools around that area. And so I went to Alabama football camp, and I was like, I'm going to do something different this year. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to try to show off, but not really do anything different than anybody else. But so I do the football camp, and I went as a tight end because I always thought that I played linebacker mostly in high school. So I thought, well, I don't know if I'm fast enough and good enough to be a linebacker in college football. So I'm going to go as a tight end. So I went as a tight end, and in the drills, they would throw me a pass, and I would catch the pass, and I'd run it back to the guy holding the ball for the quarterback, and I'd sprint back to the end of the line and wait till it's my turn again. And even if I dropped a pass, I would sprint after it, pick it up, and run back to the guy holding the ball, and then run back to the back of the line and wait till my turn again. Well, before I knew it, somebody noticed this, and so one of the trainers came over, and they're like, "Hey, Coach Stallings wants you to ride in the golf cart with him." And I was shocked. I had no idea, and then not to mention, Coach Stallings was like Coach Paul Bear Bryant to me. I'm like, oh my God, Coach Stallings wants me to ride in this golf cart. So I go to his golf cart, and I get in there with him, and he's driving, and I'm just me and him. And he's like, hey man, I don't care if you can play a lick of football. But hey, man, I see how you're working out there. We're going to make a football player out of you. Hey, we give out 20 scholarships. Now we're only giving 19 because one of them's yours. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe you just said that to me. It makes me so excited to tell that story every time, and I've told it a million times, and it makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. But that's when I knew that I was going to go to Alabama.
That's awesome.
There was no doubt I was going to Alabama. I'm mad looking back that I didn't take more official visits.
Well, speaking of official visits and recruiting, Patrick, like that story is really what it's all about, just because of the fact that you worked hard and you looked at it as, this is my opportunity to show my value by providing value for this camp. So, I mean, what do you say that, because obviously, you know, nowadays it's all about that prima donna attitude of, what are you going to do for me? This NIL mentality of, what can you do for me, as opposed to what value can I bring? I mean, talk a little bit about just how crazy things have changed from that versus to what your mindset was just coming in. Like, you didn't even know if you were going to be going here before that, but then it was, I'm out here to show what I can do.
Yeah, well, at that time, and I've talked to Coach Stallings about this later, when he first went to Alabama in 1990, he was like, I go to Alabama and everybody's like, hey, you might want to get an agent to negotiate your contract. And he was like, hey, man, what the hell do I need an agent for? Hey, man, I would have coached for free. I would have, as a football player at Alabama, I would have played for free. There's no doubt about it. I was honored and lucky to be there. It's still, to me, Alabama football is, I can't believe I played football at Alabama. And, look at the NFL, being able to play in the NFL at the same time afterwards, it seems a lot cooler to me that I actually got to play at Alabama.
Oh, man. I mean, that is awesome. But your focus was just on what can you do each and every day to provide and bring value.
Yes. Yeah. You can see, I got that one little helmet right there is not my real helmet. That's my son's helmet a long time ago, but I got a couple of helmets over there in the background. You can see those.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's some over there too. My wife would be mad right now if she saw me showing this rim that's not all cleaned up.
So, Andrew, speaking of his NFL career, what did you find? You thought there was a YouTube video of it, but what was some kind of celebration or something? What was that?
Okay, yeah. So you got to scour the internet far and wide. I used to look. So Patrick and myself, we just met today, so he doesn't know anything about me. But I am most famous on the internet for being a private investigator. Over 4 million views personally myself on TikTok on private investigator stories alone. Okay. And so I did some digging, and it's just such a good story, right? We got to tell it early. We got to tell it early on. Got to tell it early. All right. So I did some digging, found out that you got into a little bit of trouble, right? In the NFL, got a fine that amounted to about $5,000. So what was that about?
It was exactly $5,000. I can't remember the game. We were playing Sunday Night Football. I think it was against the Green Bay Packers. And I can't remember exactly who we were playing against. But anyway, so Keyshawn Johnson, I mean, he's a great wide receiver, a fantastic guy, great player. He scored a touchdown in that game. And actually during that game, which is different then, I think he had gotten a concussion in a part of that game, and he was just worn out. So he caught the touchdown pass, and me and Dave Moore and I were two of the other tight ends on Tampa's team, and so we go to the end zone after he scored, and he's just worn out and he's bent over, and so he and I go up, me on one side and Dave Moore on the other side, and we start patting him on the back. Man, great job, man! That's awesome. You scored a touchdown. This is awesome. And he was just leaned over and not doing anything. So didn't think anything about it. And, the next day I hear that I get fined $5,000 for dancing in the end zone. They thought back in the day they had the Atlanta Falcons Dirty Bird.
Oh, the Dirty Bird.
Yeah, the Dirty Bird. So they thought we were, hey, man, great job. They thought we were doing
the
all
bob
that.
and weave is what the news article said. The
bob and weave, yes.
And that's the craziest thing of all the things in the world to get fined for. You had guys pulling Sharpies out of the goalpost and phones and everything else. I'll never forget that from
Joe Horn.
I mean,
Yeah.
thing, and you got it.
Yeah. So we celebrated, but it wasn't a celebration. I mean, it was like, hey man, great job. You did what you're supposed to do. We got here where we want to be. And so we got fined and they took the money out of our paycheck immediately. And but it made, the best thing about that is it made for a great story. I'm so glad it happened. Everybody that I know that knows me would tell you there's no way Patrick danced in the end zone.
And judging by the way the NFL is today, that was probably about the last fine anybody got for a celebration.
Yeah. Now they're welcome to do it now, which I think is a good thing. I think they should dance and celebrate with their teammates that they scored a touchdown. I think that's a good thing.
Look, I'm a soccer fan, right? The English Premier League is one of my favorite pastimes, watching that, and some of their choreographed celebrations are fantastic. Yeah. And as an American watching English football, I have to say in the NFL, we got to keep our game up because we can't be beaten by the Brits, right? We can't let them have better celebrations and better dances on YouTube than our guys over here in the States, right? So we got to make sure that we're winning those celebrations.
I mean,
hands down, anybody celebrating with their celebration would be a lot better than mine would be. So we when I was in Denver, just on a little side note, we would I was a fullback and I would be with the running backs, and so Terrell Owens, Mike Anderson, Landis,
Landis Gary.
Landis Gary,
Terrell,
yeah.
Davis, Landis Gary, Mike Anderson.
Yeah.
Yep.
So playing with those guys, and so we after practice would be over, we would all huddle up on Friday, and we would huddle up together, and they would start doing a song. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe what we're about to be doing. So we started dancing, and it's after practice. So we're one of the things that Terrell Owens and Terrell Davis, one of the greatest running backs of all time. So Terrell was like, so they had this dance, and after practice, and I would look around and I would see all the offensive linemen standing around just to watch me. So we would be, so they would start chanting, you don't want to go to war with a soldier, a no-limit true soldier. I thought I told you, you don't want to. And it would just go on and on. We would start going in the huddle like this, and we'd do that after practice every day on Fridays.
Hey,
but we didn't do it on the field.
TikTok back then?
What's that?
I said, can you imagine if you had TikTok back then?
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I would get on TikTok. Somebody on the sideline would have been recording that.
Absolutely. Cool. That's how I would have got my views. Wouldn't have had to have told those private investigator stories. I would have got them with filming you guys on the sidelines. You
might have to reenact that for us one day.
Yeah. I'll do it together in the huddle.
All right, let me reel us back in for a second. Let's go. Of course, the big elephant in the room. We've got an NFL guy, right? We're gonna have to go to the Super Bowl eventually, but first, we've got to do our trivia, right? Uncle Joe's trivia.
Uncle Joe's trivia. the Super Bowl version of Uncle Joe's trivia. Y'all ready? Who's on live besides day one? Anybody else?
We've got a few people. Yeah.
Got a few people?
Yeah, we got a couple people
All
in
right.
here. Absolutely.
So I got two questions, as I do every week. And the first question is Jalen Hurts. Some people may or may not know this, but he broke the all-time record for a quarterback rushing in a Super Bowl in NFL history last night. So before Jalen Hurts broke that record, who was the leader in rushing yards in a Super Bowl at the quarterback position?
That's a good one.
That is a good one. That is a good one. Now for folks that are watching, you might have found it on Twitter if you're like me, because I did discover, Josh, me and you had this conversation earlier, and it was in fact on Twitter. I thought back to the location where I was when I saw it, and I'm like, okay, that wasn't the TV. That was the cell phone. Because I'm big on Twitter. I'm going to be on Twitter while I'm watching a game like the Super Bowl, right? But it did show it on Twitter. So if you were following along all the nonsense on Twitter with me, it did give the answer to that one. So,
and remember, this is Uncle Joe's trivia, right? Uncle Joe doesn't cheat.
Nope.
Doesn't use Google. He would have to use the World Book of Knowledge. And I bet it's not in the World Book of Knowledge. So don't cheat.
That's right.
Use your brain.
I don't
It's a
know
wonderful tool.
Yes, but I think they talked about that at the Super Bowl last night.
Did they talk about it on air? Okay.
I think they did.
I know that they did when he broke the record. They mentioned he broke the record, but I don't know if they said whose record he broke.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah.
And so our second question, if you were on with us last week, you actually heard this already. But remember who on this podcast said that the Chiefs were going to win the Super Bowl?
I would give it up to
Who
you.
on this podcast, day one included, said the Chiefs were going to make it to the Super Bowl?
Look, I'm just
Yes,
saying,
I'm the
after
only
there were only
one.
4 teams left. You had like a 25% chance.
One of 4 and one of 3. I'm talking about on this podcast. Y'all were all Bungles and y'all were all Eagles, right?
Yeah, you're right. Again,
Yes.
It was flip a coin, 25% chance. You're not a soothsayer. You didn't do anything special, Josh.
So the question last week was, if Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl, he would be tied with one other quarterback active for the most Super Bowl rings with 2. Who is that quarterback?
Yep.
So that one you could cheat and watch our last episode. We'll let you do that one. Just don't go Googling it.
I know Brent Keating, Kevin, and Day One were in the room when we mentioned that.
Yeah, so y'all can't give the answer. Those 3 people can't give the answer. Hey, and just to let you guys know, I want y'all to know that Patrick Mahomes, with this victory, he is now amongst the elite quarterbacks now, right? 2 Super Bowl rings is very important for a quarterback. He joins the ranks of Zeke Brakowski and Jeff Rutledge, Joe Gilliam.
Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning.
He's among the elites now up there with those guys. Not like loser quarterbacks, like Dan Marino and Frank Tarkenton and Jim Kelly. Not like those losers, Warren Moon and Michael Vick. We're talking about elites. Again, Jeff Rutledge and Zeke Brakowski. They're right up there with Patrick Mahomes now in Hall of Fame history. So.
Zeke, if you're listening, send us a message, man. You'll be on the show. The only Zeke that I think of is the center for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
The center.
Make a
Zeke
return.
Elliott.
Cowboys' last play of the season.
that cements your legacy, you know, like for example, I'll be honest, cementing legacies, talking about that. We've got a real life example of that on here with you know, Patrick being on here today, because when Josh was like, you know, hey, I could see if this guy wants to do it. I'm like, wait, you mean the guy he played like fullback? He's like, no, he played tight end. I'm like, no, he played fullback.
Yeah, I was mainly a fullback. I was a tackle with an 80 number, and fortunately, they put me in the backfield, so I was able to play two positions, which actually helped my career last longer.
So did you play fullback at Tampa Bay?
I did, yeah. Me and
not still there.
We had me and Mike Allstott would be in the backfield, and me and Warwick Dunn, and in the backfield they called it Jumbo and Jumbo Rhino. So you think about a rhino horn, you got the small one on the front and the big one back, or the big one on the front and the small one on the back. So that would be Jumbo Rhino, which was me as fullback and Warwick Dunn as running back. But Jumbo would just be me and Mike Allstott.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I was blocking for him, and obviously, you know, what a great athlete Mike was. He made me look good.
You're in good hands with Allstott.
Yeah,
right?
Right?
Chris Berman, you're in good hands with Allstott.
Yeah, I'm glad you remember that. That was what's his name from Monday Night Football that started that. What was his name? I can't remember.
Chris Berman, NFL Prime Time.
Yeah, he was awesome. I still have the Monday Night Football ringtone on my phone.
That's awesome.
Night Football.
I miss all of it.
That's definitely important. All right, so let's go back to the Super Bowl. We had Mahomes. I didn't catch the end of the game. I was tired. I'm not gonna lie. Well, I watched the end of the game. I'm just saying the celebration and stuff afterwards. Was Mahomes the MVP?
He was.
mean, I'm sure he was. He was absolutely the MVP of that game. I do question the legacy of the game though, and I told you guys this. I'm a little okay. So every week except for maybe last week, maybe I've gotten off this. Like, you know, you guys know my opinions. You don't kick field goals in the last 2 minutes of the game. They should just be outlawed. It's too much pressure for a kicker. It's not good for their mental health. When you win with a field goal with no time remaining, you didn't prove you beat the team. You proved that you kicked the field goal and you won a coin toss or lost a coin toss or something, right? It's a weird trajectory, weird dynamic. These teams matched up so perfectly, though, right?
Yes.
So what was the stats that you gave us, Josh, pre-game?
Yes. So both the Eagles and the Chiefs were 16-3 on the year.
Same record.
They both scored 546 points.
Amount of points.
They both had 6 All-Pros, a Kelsey brother, and their quarterback an All-Pro.
Yes.
And they were both the number 1 seeds in their conferences.
I mean, you cannot get more evenly matched than that.
And
Yep.
both quarterbacks from the Big 12, which, you know, produces the best quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I just did that because SEC people watch and they like to still claim Jalen Hurts, you know?
Yes, and I have been told by one Big 12 homer that we side with the SEC way too much. So that's for you, sir. You may or may not be an Oklahoma State Cowboy fan. I don't know.
Heck yeah. More power to the mullet. Absolutely.
But I guess
I'm a man. I'm 40.
So
I can only hope that Patrick's used to this nonsense by now. Like, what?
I mean, thanks for a great show. I love it.
And the game didn't disappoint either, right? Completely evenly matched all the way down to one play. Y'all know what I'm talking about?
Hmm?
Came down to one penalty,
Yep.
perhaps?
Potentially a hanky that got caught in the breeze or something. I don't know. It ended up on the field.
Accidentally fell out of his pocket.
Yeah. What's the What's the deal? I mean, one time they thought a flag was thrown, or actually my wife, she was like, "Did they throw a flag?" And it was the dude's mouthpiece because they're yellow.
You know, to me, watching the Chiefs play, that is a true annoyance because you got yellow shoes, you got yellow gloves, you got yellow mouthpieces all over the field, and it is an annoyance. And that may contribute to why on my 1 to 32 list the Chiefs are, around 28. I'm just saying.
Did they down any as a result of what happened?
Look, it will be reevaluated at the end of this season because okay, so I have to play nice here. Patrick's here. He's a former Buccaneer, and you guys know that the Buccaneers were lower. Patrick's converting me. They're bumping up. Of course, Tom Brady's retirement.
Computer power.
Tom Brady's retirement's helping. I'm not saying which one has more impact, a former Buck being on our show or Tom Brady. And look, the Broncos, I know you played there as well. They're already up pretty high. So I've always been a Broncos fan. But yeah, the Buccaneers on my 1 to 32 list maybe rising up, and the Chiefs may take their spot. So I'm just saying there is that. But as I digress, let's go back to the bogus holding call.
Man, I mean, so it's one of those things where, I mean, obviously people can get into the semantics of whether it was a hold or not. And I don't really think that's the point, because all game, you let everything go. Like, you just let them play. I mean, if we're going to say they're evenly matched teams, you're just going to let them play at that point. It's 3rd and 8 on that call, right? I mean, the actual hold, right? We'll just say it like that. The hold that happened in no way impacted the result of that play. Like I think we were talked about in pregame, he would have had to have been 8 feet tall and Baryshnikov to at least even have an opportunity to come down with that ball where it was thrown. It was basically almost thrown. It was left corner of the end zone, pretty much almost like out of bounds. You would have had to have been just like just the most amazing acrobat on top of a ladder to do that. So if you really want to reevaluate everything at that point, so you have to start saying to yourself, okay, and that's where I'm a proponent of the refs huddling up and saying, look, this contact here in no way impacted the result of that play. I mean, you got to start looking at things and breaking it down to, my call is more of an impact on this game than what I perceive as a holding call at that point. Because remember, at that point, you make that call, it gives the Chiefs the opportunity to run the clock out, kick the field goal, and I mean, there you have it at that point. So I just mean, and if you let things go up until that point, I mean, at what point do you say, if we're going to let them play at this point, then we really need to just let them play with the game literally on the line, and it's tied, just like it's been tied all season with these guys.
Well, and as I said in pregame, Rod, if the flag was thrown when the hold occurred, then it's a moot point, right? It is a holding penalty. It's 5 yards. It's first down. But everybody saw Mahomes pointing. Was he pointing at a flag, or was he pointing that Juju got held, right? And then did the flag come out? I didn't have the right angle because I was watching the TV. I wasn't there at the game. But I'd be very interested to see if the flag was thrown late, almost like in basketball, right? When someone doesn't score and they come down and then all of a sudden the whistle blows to say they were fouled, right? Were they waiting to see if Juju was going to catch the ball before they called the flag or threw the flag? I don't know.
Well, it's interesting.
Now, late, it wasn't like Miami, Ohio State late, which that will never be the worst call in the history of or sports. I mean, that was literally after the celebration.
Right.
Yeah.
But from a magnitude standpoint, the game was over after that.
Yeah, that ended the game. I mean, players are going to be physical on the field, and you're in that 5 yard limit right there, right when you first start off. You're the defensive back's trying to jam the wide receiver going out, and I mean, you watch it in fast motion, it's a regular play. There, it's not a penalty. And like you said, John, it goes back to the guy throwing the flag after people point at it. It's just like a pass interference play where the player gets up, and a lot of times they're like, oh, he's holding me, but he wasn't really. It's a pretty good play. And yeah, then the ref throws the flag out. So I don't know if it's I don't think that was a flag play, to be honest. That's what I think. I think there's going to be some physical things going on, and if you go back and watch it in fast motion or the regular motion that it happened in, it's like this. Nothing. There wasn't that much there. Not enough.
Yeah, to me, if it was an arm, okay, I'll give that one. Arm, you can't touch a receiver's arms, right? It's a hold, right? I don't care the result of the play. You just don't touch the receiver's arms. He's inside the body. He didn't spin, with the hold. The hold made no difference in momentum. And to me, the bottom of the shirt like that, okay, so he confessed at the end of the day, right? I held him. So that means that he probably in his mind says, I grabbed the jersey, right? You grab the jersey. To me, if the jersey doesn't move, it didn't move, then it's not a hold. I don't care. Like I'm running with the jersey. Now we're going from the days of the NFL having the breakaway jerseys or the tearaway jerseys. You guys remember those? That was good fun. It's turns into bikini football league at that point at the end of it, because we're ripping jerseys off of each other. But the jersey, like, it's gonna move at the very least if it is a hold. It didn't move at all. Maybe he grabbed like a pad or something in there, but still the jersey would have moved, I would think. There was definitely no movement there. It didn't impact the play at all whatsoever. What I would like, I'm one of these guys, and I do this with my kids. Not that they play football, but they are really good at Madden because I do this with them. So I'll stop a play, I'll rewind the video, and like I coach film with my kids, and I'm like, all right, look, here's the thing about a penalty like that. And I didn't do it on this play. I probably should have, because that one hold gets called, but we're not even looking at the line of scrimmage where 52 holds are being, held, right? You've always got holding on a play. You can call holding every single play. You really have to, as a ref, discern, is it going to impact the play? In this case, I don't think it did. All it did was impact the outcome.
Not impacting the game with this more than the actual. And I don't know, like, I got a question for you, Patrick, for you guys. So, like, when they are selecting their officials for the playoff games or Super Bowl, I mean, like, I would be a proponent of it being whoever graded the highest during the season.
Yeah.
Like, the highest line judge, the highest back judge, the highest head official. Like, that should be your selection for the Super Bowl. I mean, at the end of the day, the Eagles and the Chiefs were the two best teams in the league, and that's why they got to this point. Why could we not have an officiating crew? I don't know, do they do it? That was based on these were the guys that were the best this season, so they get selected to call this game as a result. I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking.
How do you get to be the best ref in the NFL? I mean, the best line judge, defensive backs, the head judge. I mean, how do you get selected? Why are you the best? Because you didn't call any penalties?
Yeah, maybe the way they grade after they look at stuff.
I've got the perfect scenario. Look, this didn't exist in your day, Patrick, but it's real easy to do. All you got to do is get on Twitter and go #refs during any NFL game, and the game that has the least amount of tweets complaining about the ref, they're the ones that graded the best, right? That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. Because I'll be honest, last night I'm on Twitter. I'm like, you know what? All I have to do is type in the word rigged, and I'm going to find out that this game's rigged, because you have a weird view of the extra point, right? That went straight over the upright from the camera angle. I don't know if that was good or no good. I really don't. They don't review that stuff. Why? Because we got $20 million commercials we got to play. It's the Super Bowl. I don't think anybody cared at that point. Who cares if it's tied? Who cares if it's a 1 point difference? It's not going to matter. But guess what? That started the trend, right? You have a wide open receiver. That starts the trend. It's all about these storylines that get out before the games about, people saying that things are rigged. And then Then you have a wide receiver that's magically open one play in the end zone. Then they run the exact same play. They flip the offense, and Andy Reid's special, right? He always does that. Runs the exact same play, wide open wide receiver again, scores the go-ahead touchdown, I guess, I suppose, to tie the game or whatever. But, well, that would have ultimately tied the game and got them the win. That's when the rigged really took off. Like, I couldn't even keep up reading on Twitter how quickly people went from, Rihanna's halftime show was good or bad to this game's rigged. This game's rigged. This game's rigged. And it's literally that fast. You have and
it was gasoline on the fire after the call.
Right. Yeah, we're not even talking the officiating at this point, the hold or the field goal or anything like that. Like I said, it started with an extra point that appeared from my camera angle that I'm watching on TV to have went directly over the upright like this, which, by the way, is, according to NFL rules, is not a field goal. It has to be all the way in the upright to go. So just to let y'all know where that's coming from, that is actually a rule now. If it splits the upright, part of it's out of it, it's a no good. So I don't know if it was or not. They didn't replay it. Does that look bad on the NFL? Absolutely, it looks bad on the NFL. That's where the tweets begin, and then that's okay. So like, we're just really three idiots with a podcast, right? I'm not including you in that one, Patrick. You're not an idiot here. It's just, but it's guys like us that do drive those narratives on social media. We're thought leaders in this. We've got, we're not Pat McAfee thought leaders, right? We're not ESPN thought leaders, but we do get to come up with those narratives, right? And Josh, what happened after the Super Bowl? Those statistics. You gave us another little meme. What was that
so,
one?
I mean, everything just came out saying Philly had no business being in the Super Bowl. I mean, it went through the entire schedule. I couldn't believe it. It was, they beat the bottom 5 defense by 3. That was the Lions. Kirk Cousins in primetime beat Carson Wentz, beat Trevor Lawrence, beat Cardinals without Hopkins or a kicker, beat Cooper Rush, beat bottom 3 team at time. That was my Steelers. And it goes on. There's not a positive win. And then losses are just magnified. To Taylor Heineke at home after Dak dropped 40 on them. To Andy Dalton by double digits at home. I mean, they're just getting piled on. And then, of course, I sent y'all, it's been a horrible year in Philly. They lost the MLS. They lost the World Series when they were up 3-2, and then lost the Super Bowl when they were up 10 at the half, with possibly Chad Henne coming out in the second half. And then of course Mahomes comes out and takes them straight down the field. Amazing.
Build them up to watch the game and then tear them down after the game because they lost.
Right? Exactly. Oh, and we were talking about this. I think Andrew and I were talking about this today. But good friend of the show, Kevin Franz, called me, and he said, "Josh, what's going on, man? I'm watching these talking heads, and they're comparing Jalen Hurts to Michael Jordan." And I was like, calm down. It's okay. It's okay.
They didn't this morning. That ended.
Well, I mean, Jalen Hurts had a great game, right? Statistically speaking, he had a fantastic game. But what I told Kevin was, everybody knows Patrick Mahomes. The talking heads don't need to talk about how great Patrick Mahomes is, because anybody that knows anything about football knows Patrick Mahomes is amazing. But they're just getting to know Jalen Hurts. I said, remember, 2 years ago, Jalen Hurts got benched in the third quarter in a game that if they had won, they would have been in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And now here we are 2 years later, and he's in the Super Bowl. So
coming back to, basically how we started this entire segment about the Super Bowl, right? I named off some Jeff Rutledge, Zeke Brokowski, those quarterbacks. Those are all quarterbacks with 2 rings. But we all know they were the backup quarterbacks, right? And then I named off quarterbacks that, my loser no ring club were all freaking awesome quarterbacks, right? Dan Marino, Jim Kelly, Frank Tarkenton, all those people. And that's the kind of narrative now with social media that exists because we consume way too much football in any given week, right? Right? Like there's too much football talk. There really is. And we're contributing. So I guess that's a little hypocritical of us. But, you know, we've got all these storylines that are out there that are just doing this. I just kind of wonder, if the Chiefs lost, you know the Colts loss was going to come up, right? Because they lost to the Colts this season. They lost to the Colts, the Bengals. I don't know what they would have said about the 49ers win. Probably because it was our backup quarterback in, because that was when Jimmy Garoppolo was playing. You know, it wasn't when our stud Brock Purdy was playing, you know,
and
which is our backup's backup.
How much longer is the window of opportunity open for Pat Mahomes? I mean, he only has one ring, and he's been here so many times. I mean,
right.
I mean, we would saying basically he's like the Atlanta Braves of quarterbacks or something.
Jim Kelly.
Yeah. But you got to get to the Super Bowl to win it. You don't get to it, then there's a lot of great quarterbacks out there that got to the Super Bowl and never won it. And you were thinking, you're talking about earlier on the Twitter feeds and all that about it always comes out, because if it's my team, then he did catch the ball and didn't fumble the ball. If it's your team, it's the opposite of that. It's always going to be. So that's why that's with today's social media, you're going to see all that stuff by a ton of different people that like everybody else. There's a handful of people that like the main team, comparatively speaking, across the United States. We the pass that happened during the game, and he caught the pass, and the same guy, I can't remember his name, but there was a fumble and he ran it in for a touchdown. They ended up calling it back as a dropped pass. Yeah. So I mean, I thought, and I was for Philly, I thought he caught the ball and made a move forward, and it was a fumble. But I'm for Philly, but I guarantee you're going to see the opposite of that on Twitter.
Oh, you're going to see both sides of it, right? Depending on which hashtag you put in. For sure.
Yeah. And then we talked about it earlier with the catch that happened when Devontae Smith caught the ball.
Yeah.
And 2 feet down and goes out of bounds, and that was, to me, that was a catch. And once you're out of bounds, it shouldn't matter, I think, if you've got control of it before you go out of bounds.
Beforehand. And speaking of that, Patrick, you had your own situation you were part of back in the NFC Championship game with a controversial call that essentially cost you guys. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Bert Emanuel, we're on a fourth down and trying to convert a fourth down, and Bert Emanuel catches the pass from Sean King and makes the first down, but then they call it a no catch, even though I sent Josh the video of it. Catches the ball, hits the ground, rolls over, has control of it the whole time. But when he hits the ground, just the barely tip of the ball touches the ground, and they call it a no catch. And there's no doubt about it that it was a catch. But I think, and I've heard this, and I can't verify that, but I've heard this called the Bert Emanuel rule now.
Mm-hmm.
So he had control of the ball the whole time, and it should be a catch. So that's, I think.
Hey, Drew, imagine if Twitter was around back in 2000 when this happened.
I've got the narrative right now already. We can talk about this negativity, that's in Patrick's life already. But here's the Colin Cowherd take, right? If we had Sirius XM when Patrick was in there. Now, okay, so I don't even know that Patrick knows this. Again, we thoroughly vetted you, made sure we were good to have you on the show. Now, how about this? All right, I got a receiver, right? I got a receiver that 22% of his completed passes are touchdown passes. Why am I not throwing to that receiver more often? In his NFL career, 22% of his completed passes, 22% of his catches, are touchdown passes. 22%.
Yeah, that's pretty strong. But at the same time,
by
was.
By the way, that's this guy right here. That's this guy right here.
I pretty much caught all the passes that they threw to me, but they knew that I wasn't good for much yard after the catch. I wasn't that fast, and I've got a good buddy that I want y'all to get on the show. He's a Navy SEAL of 22 years that lives here in Birmingham. But besides that, great guy. But when I've been with him, he tells people that I had the longest run in the history of Alabama football. And then he goes on to say it's because it took me so long to get to where I was going. That's my longest run. But that's why they didn't throw to me as much anymore, because I was not a guy that was going to, like the Shannon Sharps or the Travis Kelce's or, those guys that can actually catch the ball and actually go up. I could do the same thing, but somebody's going to catch me. Guys have a chance to run down the field.
You tell them, hey, if you need 5 yards, I can get you 5 yards. If you need 8, I can get you 5 of them.
I was good for 5 yards, no doubt. But hey, if you get 5 yards every play, you're going to convert to first downs.
That's right.
There you go. Again, 22% of his completed passes were touchdowns.
It's hard to argue.
You got to put the ball in his hands more often.
Well, I tell you, I tore a quad muscle, and I went to when I was in Denver, and we were in practice, and we had a full scrimmage practice football, and I caught a pass, and I was still kind of limping from my quad tear, and I caught a 5-yard touchdown pass. I ran it in, and I kind of stumbled over the line to get for a touchdown at a full live practice, and I came back to the sideline, and Coach Mike Shanahan was my coach in Denver. And he was sitting there, and I was like, "Hey, Coach, sorry I couldn't run that any faster with this quad tear and everything." And he was like, "Hey, Patrick, don't worry about it, man. You were never fast anyway." That's a true story, quote unquote.
That is awesome.
Sounds like Patrick was sporting that Steve Bono like speed we were talking about before the podcast, Josh. So Steve Bono has an NFL record when he was with the 49ers of the longest time to be on television without a defender in the shot. And it was on a touchdown run. And it's kind of like what you said about the longest touchdown run. Notice I didn't say he had the longest touchdown run. I said he was on the longest amount of time without a defender being in the shot.
Yeah.
Because he was so slow when he ran. They called this bootleg. He runs around to the right side. The defense sold all 11 guys out to running up the middle. I mean, just plowed through that line. But Steve Bono was 4 yards ahead, and the camera crew just followed him down, and there wasn't anybody with him except for, I think his tight end or his lead blocker, fullback. I can't remember who it was at that time. Was right there with him. And, it was like a good, if you watch the replay, there's YouTube videos of this. You can go look this up. If you watch the replay of it, it feels like an eternity that he's just running down the field, and you're like, where's the defense at? But they're just in the pile with the offense.
Got to the line.
Yeah, you got just a bunch of fat dudes sitting on you. You can't go anywhere and catch that guy running.
It's like when Peyton Manning used to run in from the 1 when he was with Denver. Right. It took him like 20 minutes to go a yard.
Well, Eli made fun of him the other day about it. I think it was during a Chiefs game. I could be wrong on that one, where Patrick Mahomes did the same bootleg to the left, like you're talking about, and he's like, "Oh man, he took that out of my playbook," with their little podcast / TV show they got that's live during the games. And he's like, "Yeah, but it was a lot faster when he did it than when you did it." And if you go back and watch that 1 yard run, which of course the field, he's running 25 yards across the field to get into the end zone because he hits the corner, but it's still like at least 7 to 10 seconds worth of football play going on.
It takes him like 5 seconds just to get started up enough with his gallop to begin the 1 yard.
But you have to consider the dude, Josh. Like, I mean, me and you aren't like, I mean, we're both pretty fast guys. Like, even still, even for our age. But he was our age and probably could have beat us in a foot race. So, like, you think about how long it would take us. Like, he's only beaten us by 2 steps, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'll give him that. Yeah, he might be a professional athlete, but he's a very, very honed in specific.
Yeah, I was honed in. Well, you think about this. You want the offense to have the ball as long as possible because it wears the defense down.
Right.
Well, what about the offense? Why don't they get worn down? Well, if you ever been in practice before, you see when the defense surrounds the ball, when somebody runs over here and the offensive line is still over here doing their little thing, everybody on the whole defense has to sprint to that ball where the ball is going. They have to run every play like that. And that's what makes it an advantage for offense to have the ball longer, because it does wear the defense down. Because the way they practice, they all have to run to the ball. They all have to, and you're not going to see all the offensive people running to the ball like that. So it does make a difference. And I brought that up because we're talking about running like that.
But even your big guys up front, like yourself was a big guy up front, right? You know, even in shotgun, whenever you're doing the backdrop during a pass, you know, if you're going back more than 6 yards, like you're done, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, once that ball's released, those defensive guys are still chasing that ball, and those offensive dudes are like, well, we're done. Like we don't have to do anything.
Might go 5, 6, 8 yards down the field, and there's a couple that stragglers that run down further and still keep trying to block, which you should. There's nothing wrong with that, but you'll have a wide receiver over here on the other side. He's not going to be sprinting across the field to get to where the ball is for the most part, but it does wear the defense down. So there's something to be said about that.
And unless obviously you're the Seahawks in that wild card game against the 49ers, and their offensive line was just running straight down the field for some reason. They had like 3 back-to-back penalties for an eligible receiver downfield. I was like, oh, this is the best implosion ever. You know, they hung with the 49ers in the first half, and in the second half, they were just in a track race or something. I don't know what was going on. They were just going by unblocked and running forward instead of going back. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen on these pass plays. But, that's probably a different feel now than it was then. You guys weren't running the run-pass options like that, so it wasn't really confusing, I guess, up front.
Yeah, we did have a lot of those plays that we would dial up. I mean, you got the keepers and we got the pass 14 mans. You know, you're faking the 14 handoff, and then you got all the fullback trying to fake the block and then going out to the left or actually missing the guy and going down the field in the middle so it could open it up for somebody else. I was always a wide open decoy, so I was the guy running down the middle of the lane or sprinting out to the left so it would open to somebody else up in the right. Or
22% of his catches are touchdowns. Get him the ball more.
In fact, then you guys would have been right there in having that Super Bowl experience in 2000.
See, if me and Colin Coward existed then, you wouldn't have been the wide open guy. You would have been double teamed because everybody would have been afraid to let you be open because they're like, he's going to score a touchdown.
They would have their analytics and everything at that point.
Right.
Well, you're talking about me catching more passes, and I tell people this today. I'm like, well, I was the 5th guy in the read. And they're like, oh, yeah, 5th guy in the read. I was like, yeah, but quarterback run was number 4. So I was the last guy in the read, and a lot of times he was running before he threw to me.
And that was Brad Johnson for some of your career, right?
Well, I didn't get to play with Brad, so I'd already left Tampa. But yeah, I wish I could have. Although I went to Florida State football camp. Now, don't get mad.
I don't remember Brian Greasy being a big runner in Denver.
He wasn't that much of a runner, but he was a terrific guy, smart, studied hard. He was a good solid quarterback, and he played a long time because of it.
And that's also why your pass receptions went up when you went to Denver, right? Because number 5 got called a little more than number 4 on that one.
Oh.
What's his name that used to be on Saturday Night Live? Dennis
Miller.
Dennis Miller, yeah, he did the Monday football there for a little while I was playing.
He was hilarious.
Yeah, so my first game in Denver was a Monday Night Football against the New York Giants, which was September 10th, 2001, the day before September 11th. So they actually handed me the ball a couple times, and I didn't get in the end zone. and Dennis was up in the he was calling the game, and he was like, "Hey, man, I cannot believe they keep going back to this Patrick Hape." And then I catch a touchdown pass, and then Dennis was like, "Hey, man, just give it to Coach Shanahan. He's so smart. He's going to Patrick." And then it fooled everybody, and then he throws him a pass and scores a touchdown.
But that's the storyline, though, right? Although that game probably had another interesting storyline itself, right?
Yeah.
Because you said it was the last game before 9/11. So what was that like?
So it's the opening night football, and everybody had played on Sunday. We actually have a Monday night football game against the Denver Broncos. First Monday night football game of the season, and I mean us being in Denver playing against the New York Giants. So the game probably gets over at 11 o'clock, and so they lose 2 hours being in Denver. So, and then they're leaving 2 hours after the game to go back to New York. So they're getting back. I've told people this over and over. They're getting back around early in the morning, right before this stuff starts happening. And here we are in Denver. The game's over, and we go have something to eat and hang out for a little bit, and then we go home. And I wake up the next morning, my father-in-law calls me on the phone. He's like, "Hey, we're getting bombed." And Denver was, the New York Giants that we played were right there in the midst of that. They just had to have barely gotten back before all this happened.
Wow.
Probably within like hours.
Yeah.
Man.
So from your perspective, being an NFL player, Tuesday was basically canceled, right? For everybody across the world, because we didn't know what the heck was going on. What was it like trying to game plan for Sunday, or, God forbid, whoever had the Thursday night game? What was that running through your mind,
After
Yeah. You went from one day to the next, right?
Yeah, actually, so we played the Monday night football game. We get Tuesdays off, unless you're injured or something like that, and need to go up to do some rehab and whatnot. And then Wednesday starts the full week of practice. We actually just kind of came up there and did some weeks, a couple of days of practice, light practice, because we already knew we weren't going to play on that Sunday. And we played the Sunday after that, and it was one of the coolest things ever. So we go to play the Arizona Cardinals. Pat Tillman is playing for the Arizona Cardinals, and so I get to play against him, which I thought was one of the greatest things ever, because I was like, man, he's just such a great athlete. So I love playing against him. Anyway, being at this game, and they did the national anthem beforehand, and they had the flag that covered the whole field, and we all went up there and held the flag. I thought it was just it was a great thing to see everybody come together after something that happened like this.
Wow.
That's
Did
awesome.
Pat Tillman wait until the end of the season?
He did. He played that year, and then after that, man, he was like, he had a higher calling, man. He had it's like one of my buddies here that lives in town that's a Navy SEAL, medically retired, and he moved here from South Carolina, and he was like, man, I went to college, and I didn't know what I was going to do after college, and he's like, I needed a purpose. I didn't know what it was. I needed a purpose, and the Navy SEALs is what I tried to do to find a purpose. And so he did that for a long time. This is not the guy I was mentioning earlier. This is another guy, Rob. It's kind of interesting that you got a couple of these guys that are around you. You just don't see them very often. There's not many of them out there. So but the ones that I've met are just great guys.
Man,
and that's what
awesome.
Pat. He had to find that purpose, man. After 9/11 happened, he's like, football is not what it's about. It's about me serving my country, and that's got to be something that's absolutely amazing.
Wow.
there's no doubt about that. Wow.
That's good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, let's we're gonna get a little lighter for a second, okay? we're gonna get a little lighter if that's okay with you guys, because I gotta ask. You guys.
Are you staying with Patrick? Because I got something light for Patrick first.
You got something light
I got
for
something
Patrick
light
first? Yeah.
for Patrick.
I like.
So Patrick,
you go first, because if it's the same thing, it's going to be awesome. But go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So Patrick, I know we've had a great time talking to you. Hearing all about your career and everything. But there's one question that all of our listeners have for you. That's the most important question that we're going to ask all night, and that is: do you I know you don't drink a whole lot of dark cola, but do you prefer Pepsi or Coke?
Here's what I'll tell you. I like Diet Coke, or I like Pepsi. I like both of them. The one that I buy is the one that's on sale.
Oh, for the win! For the win!
Because I like
that.
I like them both big time, and I drink a lot of Diet Cokes and Diet Pepsis, and but the one that I'm drinking now is the one that's on sale.
Hey, that's like on Family Feud. Good answer.
Yeah.
Good answer.
That was a
know.
safe answer. I'm pressing him harder, Josh. I'm pressing him harder with my question.
Katie's
okay, you
laughing.
played.
I'd like to hear what Katie has to say about Diet Pepsi or Diet Coke, whatever's on sale. So we'll see if she chimes in.
I think that one won your heart, though, Josh, because you're the cheap one, right? And out of the two of you, you're the cheap one, so you're probably like, yeah, I feel you.
What's your playbook?
So
My public shopping list is based on BOGOs. Absolutely.
Yeah, the first time I ever actually chat with Katie on the phone, Josh calls me up, right? And he's like, "Hey man, what's up?" And I'm like, "I'm cleaning my shower right now." And he's like, "Okay, and I'm like, "It's a real pain in the neck." And he's like, "Why is that?" And I'm like, "I got this cleaner that, like, my mom swore by it, and this stuff sucks. Like, I have to clean up the cleaner. Like, it's the worst cleaner in the world." And he's like, well, why you got it? Like, or whatever. I was like, it was $1. It sucks. It's awful. Like, cause it cleans, but you got to clean up the cleaner, and that's the problem. And I'm like, but I'm gonna use the whole thing because I spent money on it. And he's like, yeah, you spent $1 on it. He's like, see, he's cheap like me. That's why I like him. And
I like
We
it.
joke around there and work with you, man. AK,
I was gone. I already paid for it.
right, I gotta finish it, and I used it. I used it all. Although that shower did sort of fall through, and I had to replace the whole thing. So I wonder if it was the cheap cleaner that caused that. That might be the reason. So it might have cost me in the long run, Josh. That's the end of that story. All right, I'm gonna ask you. I think this might be our last NFL question, unless Rod has something for you. You played in a lot of places, right? You saw a lot of fan base. Which fan base truly is the worst?
I would say I think it's the worst, and because it's the worst, I think it's the best. And that was playing in Oakland.
Oh, man, that wouldn't even have been my top 10. But yeah. I think, yeah, I see what you're saying.
They're all dressed up. They got paint on. They got spikes on shoulder pads. And when I played there, we had to come out of the behind the sideline of the Oakland Raiders, and right in the middle of the stadium on the 50-yard line. So we had to run behind their seats and run out onto the field. And since it was the Oakland A's baseball field, a couple of times I played there, it was the dirt field because they had, the baseball field was still on. I thought was the greatest thing ever. I'm like, oh my God, I get to see what I saw on TV. And so we come out of there, and those guys face painted, they're yelling at you, cussing at you. And then we're on the one side of the field, and Oakland's on the other side of the field. But anyway, on the side of the field that we're warming up and all that stuff, all of them migrate down that way. And they just yell at you any word you can think of. They yell it at us, and they're cussing at us. And it's so bad, but it's so great because of that. And it's memorable. And not to mention getting to play at the Oakland A's baseball field when the Oakland Raiders were playing there was, I grew up an Oakland A's fan, and getting to watch that with the Bashing brothers, Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire, and those guys, Ricky Henderson. But when they had the earthquake that happened in '89 World Series, and here I am walking out on that field getting to do that.
And
that made
in the middle of Billy Bean Ball, right?
Yeah. That made it one of the greatest places I ever played because of that.
Yeah. Okay. You're good. You're good at this answer. I'll see. Rod, you got anything? You gonna stump him with a question?
I mean, that was really, really good right there with that. I mean, because so basically what you're telling me is the Oakland Raiders fan base was like the LSU for college.
Yeah. Yeah. But LSU is a great place to play. All the fans were just wonderful. As far as what I saw, the first time I ever went to LSU, they rocked our bus, and the next time that I went there, they rocked our bus, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And some people were like, "What's going on? They're rocking our bus." I'm like, "Yes, this is amazing." And
So
then
you were there the Sean Alexander game where he absolutely went off on them. Rushing.
Yeah, that was '96. That was my senior year. I helped accomplish some of that. So, Sean Alexander, great guy, great NFL football player, great college football player. He was number 37. I was number 38. So he was my locker mate my senior year and his freshman year.
Oh, wow.
There was, they were in number order. So it was great to have him and get to know him a lot. What a great guy.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Is it time to reveal trivia answers, Josh?
I think it is.
Doing it for Uncle Joe.
That's it. Uncle Joe's trivia. So for those of y'all that logged on late or are still here, I'm still going to repeat the question. The first question was, we know that Jalen Hurts broke the all-time QB rushing record in Super Bowl history last night, but who held the record prior to him breaking it? I didn't see what Katie wrote. What did that say?
Just ignore it. Just ignore it. Put the blinders on because she's volunteering y'all to buy to not ever to Venmo him money so he doesn't have to buy Pepsi products anymore.
Wow.
We're gonna get sponsored by Pepsi, and you're not gonna be able to talk bad about it anymore. It's gonna be great.
That's right.
I can't wait till that moment.
So the answer to
Pepsi.
Oh, go ahead, Patrick. What'd you say?
When that happens, I'm going to like Pepsi.
Exactly.
Pepsi only.
So it's interesting that I picked this question based on what happened yesterday, because Patrick actually should have played in the game and maybe McNair wouldn't have had this record. But the answer is Steve McNair. The Rams beat the Bucs in the 1999 NFC Championship, the greatest show on turf, that put up a blistering 11 points in the game. And they went to play the Tennessee Titans, where McNair rushed for 64 yards, which had been the record for 24 years until it was easily broken by Jalen Hurts almost in the first half.
Yes.
But if you look at the end of the game stats, he actually only had 70 yards rushing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he barely made it.
Yeah. I think he had 61 in the first half.
Yeah. It was just over 60.
And then the second question, again, if you were with us last week, nobody commented. So I appreciate everybody who's listening and knows the answer. But the question was, now that Patrick Mahomes has won his second Super Bowl ring, what other quarterback is tied with him, active quarterback is tied with him for the most Super Bowl rings? And that answer is none other than Jimmy Garoppolo.
I'll say, Drew, you want to take that one?
I'm telling you, up there with the greats. The greats like Jeff Rutledge, Zeke Rakowski, which, by the way, I had to put on my notes so that I would remember their names because I came up with this. Wow. I was literally looking it up last night. Backup quarterback quarterbacks that had 2 Super Bowl rings, which there's not a lot of Googling for that. You got to do some major research for that. It's not just you look at it and you get the answer real quick. Nobody's writing that article on Barstool Sports. I'm just saying maybe they need to get on that for me so I don't have to do as much research as I did. But I got 4 quarterbacks total. Of course, I took Jimmy Garoppolo off because my whole thing was I knew Josh was going to be big-headed picking the winner of the Super Bowl. So I was like, yeah, congratulations. He's as good as Jimmy G now and, Jeff Rutledge and so on and so forth. That was the game plan. But I had to drop Jimmy Garoppolo off of the list because, it's tough to find who was backup quarterbacks.
Eric, Bubby Brister does not have one.
Instead of Bubby Brister, but Bunny is almost fitting.
I called him Happy Feet.
Good old Bubby.
So Bubby Brister didn't get one with the Steelers.
Yeah, I looked, sadly, because I thought so, but no.
Oh, no.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Backup quarterback both years at Denver?
Yes.
Is that where he got him? Okay.
Where you got him.
Got the 2 Super Bowls. John, it was last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's what
There it is. I knew it wasn't with my Steelers, but I figured it was somewhere else because Eric knows his stuff. Day one.
Yeah, but played by Neil O'Donnell.
Oh, my. Oh, we have Mike Tomczak, Bubby Brister, Mark Malone. If y'all remember Mark Malone, he was a anchor or a reporter for ESPN for a while.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of before my time, though. And then Andrew told me that Steve Bono actually played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I had not remembered. So, yeah, we've had some interesting quarterbacks before old Roethlisberger came around, and now hopefully Kenny Pickett.
I think Bubby played at Louisiana Monroe, didn't he?
He did. It was one of those Louisiana schools for sure.
I'm pretty sure it was Louisiana Monroe, which I mean that's a whole podcast topic right there. That school and Super Bowl quarterbacks, and also the potential that Terry Bradshaw doesn't become a Super Bowl winning quarterback, right? Going full circle because Terry Bradshaw was the backup quarterback on that team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Phil, I forget his last name now. Phil from Duck Dynasty, the dad, was the starting quarterback for that team, Louisiana Monroe. And he told the coach, he's like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. He goes up to Terry Bradshaw and said, you know what? You go out, you make the Bucks. I'm going to go get the Ducks. And he quit football and gave Terry Bradshaw the starting quarterback position. So
that's his Tom Brady story then.
Yeah. So,
but I believe Terry Bradshaw was at Louisiana Tech, and where Phil was at Louisiana Tech, and I think Bubby Brister
was it both Louisiana Tech? Okay.
I knew Bradshaw was at Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, but
that's not bad.
Louisiana Monroe, I believe, was Bubby Brister, and that's where my mom. So.
Because at that time, I think it was called like Northeast Louisiana or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why when you said Louisiana Monroe, I didn't correct you because I didn't know if Louisiana Tech converted to Louisiana Monroe.
No.
I don't know anything about the direction of Louisiana.
They went through a couple of name changes.
Northeast Louisiana because Louisiana Lafayette used to be called Southwest Louisiana.
Yeah. They changed ULM, University of Louisiana Monroe, to something else, or vice versa. And then you got Louisiana Tech, which is over in Ruston, which is right outside, 30 minutes away.
Right. Hence why I get them confused because now they're just in some conference, Sun Belt or something, and you see them on your schedule and you're like, yes, W, let's go to that game.
Yeah,
ticket should be cheap. All right. Of course, I can't say anything, right, because I am an Auburn fan, and we were the Alabama Polytechnic College. So, that was our Polytechnic Institute or something like that.
And Louisiana Monroe beat us, right?
Do you mean Alabama?
They beat Alabama, too, didn't they?
Yeah. to say that was Alabama, not us.
Okay, we beat them in overtime. I stand corrected.
No,
We ended up
no,
pulling it out.
that was actually Saban's first year, and I don't know if I told you guys the story about the TED Talk with Saban after they come off the loss to Louisiana Monroe, and Saban's leaving the stadium. He's ticked off, right? And he goes to he has to get gas. His car's out of gas, and he's like, "Well, crap, I gotta go get gas." And he goes up to the guy to pay. You know, he's got cash. He's paying, and he has the ring on, and he's like, "Oh, that's a nice ring." You know, the guy comments on it, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, it is." He's like, "What kind of ring is that?" He's like, "Oh, it's a national championship ring from LSU." He's like, "Oh, that's cool. That's cool." He's like, "Yeah, I hope to win a few more here at Alabama." And he's like, "Well, you won as long as that Nick Saban's the coach." So,
all right, while we're piling on Nick Saban, I got a Nick Saban story for y'all real fast.
all right, go for it.
So there was some kind of leadership conference or something at the BJCC.
Yeah.
I don't remember what year it was, but Saban told a funny story about how what's his wife's name?
Terry.
Oh, I know where you're going.
You know where I'm going?
Yeah, I do.
So correct me if I get part of the story wrong, because it's 10 years old, I think. But Terry was dating Nick Saban's friend, and stopped dating him and started dating Nick Saban. And when they went back to was he from Ohio, Michigan?
I think
Ohio,
so.
one of those. They pull into this gas station and get gas, and Terry's former boyfriend pumps the gas for them. And Nick Saban says to her, "Wow, aren't you glad you picked me? You know, I'm college football coach, won national championships and all this stuff. And you're with me. You could have been with that guy." And she said, "Well, maybe if I had been with that guy, he would have won national championships."
Oh,
And he would have been the head coach at Alabama.
Exactly. To hear Nick Saban tell the story, there's explicitives in it that the wife said. I don't know if it's true or not, but you know, with it, that she said the dirty words, but you know, who knows? But you know, we try to run it clean here, but yeah, she said that he'd be the coach at Alabama. Yeah, that was I think that conference, it used to come to Birmingham, because I said it was like a TED Talk or something, but it's that conference that he told that Louisiana Monroe story. Gosh, I think it was like 2 years later when they had the conference again. Like those are almost back-to-back stories right there that we both heard. But yeah, it's good fun if you ever get to attend to those. It's a cheap price too. I think it was only like $20 to go or something like that.
Yeah, it was. Hey, Drew, speaking of cheap prices, why don't you tell us a little bit about what Subway is doing here now?
All right. So we'll let Patrick go to bed after this one, but okay. So we got Subway here. Okay. They decide to save money. So they're going to what they're going to do is instead of the pre-sliced meat, they're gonna go ahead and start slicing their own meat in store, right? So you're gonna have fresh sliced meat. Now this is early on stages, it's not been released fully onto the public yet, so we'll see it, come to the stores. Normally they hold these franchisees to the ground on stuff like this. They give them about a 5-year time frame to save up money, because they're gonna have, their special tools that you'll have to buy, I'm sure. Because it's a way for them to generate money. Ultimately, they've said that it's going to save money, at the bottom line. I don't think my submarine sandwiches are going to be any cheaper. I'm just saying, I don't think they are. Josh, what are your thoughts on the matter?
Well, when I first saw it, I was kind of excited. I'm a big Jersey Mike's fan, and I really like how Jersey Mike's takes that block of ham or turkey or whatever and puts it on and cuts it just like they do at the Publix deli. It makes me feel like it's more fresh. So my question to Subway is the meat still going to be the same terrible stuff that's in the wax paper or whatever that is that separates, and everything is individually packaged for exactly what's needed for the spicy Italian versus the club sub? Or is this going to be like high quality, like maybe boar's head meat or something? Maybe they signed a contract with boar's head instead of the same company that maybe Taco Bell uses for their meat. I don't know.
I like the idea of going to Subway. They actually slice the meat off, because I feel like I'm at the Publix deli. So, and I I don't know if the meat's any better or not, but it sure does taste good. And I like it better than I do the Hillshire Farms that I buy that's packaged up in plastic.
Right. Right.
So
it's got to be better. So I think it's a good thing long term, and if it can save us money, that would be even better.
So I agree with you, Patrick, and Josh, in theory, that because I do like seeing the meat sliced, and I do love that experience at Jersey Mike's. My only issue with Subway is this: like, there's usually somebody that kind of resembles maybe a Mike the Butcher kind of guy that's like cutting my meat at these places. So you got credibility there. Like, I got to pause a little bit, whether it's a special machine doing it or not. If I'm entrusting the 16-year-old, the group of 16-year-olds, like in where I live now, that are back there manning the subways at this point to cut my meat, I mean, that's the part here that's just got me like,
Look, here's the deal. Okay, so I had a friend of mine. Actually, y'all know this friend. We have all worked together at some point. We'll talk later in text message. And he said Subway was his favorite job. He worked there from the time he was 16 till the time he was 20, I think. And he said it was his favorite job because it's not busy, and he could smoke as much pot at work as he wanted to. And so you're going to have, I'll change the name to protect the innocent. You're going to have old, Terry back there with the meat slicer that's high as a kite, slicing your meat up. You're gonna be getting that on your sandwiches. I'm gonna question the consistency.
Those irregular shaped pieces,
and you're gonna have to worry about the irregular shaped pieces and the potential thumb that he loses, and that he's so high he doesn't even know that he cut it off. It's just gonna be right in there in your sandwich. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I agree. I'll tell you this: my father-in-law has one of those meat slicers, and they are extremely hard to clean. So ooh. I don't know. It's probably fine during that day, but I wonder who's cleaning it. And afterwards, it looks nice. I like the meat that's cut from the deli. I don't know how they're cleaning it at Publix, but I like the idea. I like the thought of Publix, how they clean it better than I like the thought of how Subway cleans.
Yes, that would be a big crate. We're gonna get pieces of other meat, but not clean.
Yeah.
Look,
that are 3 weeks old.
Yeah.
Subways are all over the place, right? And if you grow up in a small town like I did, you went you turn out to the left to go to this Subway, turn out to the right of your driveway to go to that Subway. You're going to go 10 miles either way. Let's go to the clean Subway, right? That's how you pick which Subway you're going to. So is it still going to be, oh, I noticed the meat slicer at this one was the clean Subway, so let's go to this one. Hey, look, I saw bugs in there. It doesn't matter. Clean meat slicer.
Yeah.
Clean meat slicer.
I think I want some molded Black Forest ham with my turkey sub that I asked for.
That was honey ham. It's black on the edges because it's old. That's why it's black.
That's peppercorn ham.
Right.
That's what they call it.
Aged ham.
Patrick and I are just looking for that 2 for $10 to come back.
I know.
$5
right?
footlong.
Yeah.
If I can get my $5 footlongs, I don't care if High Terry's slashing my meat up back there. I need a $5 footlong, and I want the real $5 footlongs, not the fake ones where they tried to pass off and say this is a $5 footlong, and it's like you had 3 choices, and it's like the only reason you're selling me this one for $5 is because it has one piece of meat on it. I want to get the Subway melt for $5 again. That's what I
With
want.
the bacon.
It's inflation. Now it's
Yeah.
the $10.
Bacon and toast it.
That's
Exactly. I want bacon on it, and I want it toasted. That's what I require for $5. I don't even care if they come out with just a bacon sandwich, as long as it's bacon and toasted with my cheeses. I'm gonna be good.
Yeah, we're on the same page, I believe. There, Drew.
And guess what? They probably won't even have to slice the bacon. It'll come sliced because it's bacon. So, old High Keith won't risk losing a finger today.
They can't. Yeah, that's going to come out already ready, surely.
Right. Gotta be.
Even the top line delis, they don't slice bacon. I haven't seen that anyway. I'm sure it happens somewhere, but
It's got to. It doesn't come off the pig and strip,
Yeah.
for sure, but or maybe it does because bacon is obviously magic.
it is. Yes, I'm a big bacon fan. I've got too much blood in my cholesterol, so bacon is good for that.
Exactly.
There you go.
All right, Josh. You know what to do.
All right. So, we're glad you came to visit with us today. Not as much interaction today as normal, but hopefully lots of people will listen. You can follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You'll be able to see segments of the show on YouTube Shorts, on TikTok, on Facebook Reels, where we have over 4 million views for 3 different videos combined. But we're glad you took time out of your day to hang out with us. This is the culture of Splife, where we talk about all things sports and life. We are not a football podcast. So some of y'all may be wondering, is this it until football season? Absolutely not. There's going to be enough to talk about with Aaron Rodgers over the next few weeks, with Jimmy Garoppolo, with all the free agent deals that are going to be happening over the next couple months, probably leading up until the next
maybe
football
even
season.
balloons from China.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, you never know. You never know. So we'll be here, and I'll continue to let y'all know when we'll be live. And we just appreciate all the support you've given us. And until next week, we'll see you then.